Well, God bless you, and thank you for tuning in to SWM TV. I'm going to be your host, Tabitha Stevens, and I am here interviewing Bishop Robert Stevens. Thank you for joining us, Bishop.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure for me to do this interview with Tabitha Stevens.
Yes. Okay. Well, are you ready
Yes,
for
I
your
am.
next question? Well, your first question, I mean.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. The first question is, Bishop, we know that you're rooted here. All your relatives are here. You have relatives all over Washington State, and you were actually born in Portland, Oregon.
Yes.
But you grew up in California and Las Vegas.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was born in Portland, Oregon,
Mhm.
and when I left Seattle, I was very young. I was probably about 4 or 5 years old.
Mhm.
And what happened is we had a death in the family. My real dad passed away when I was at a very young age.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Yes, it was probably I was probably about 4 or 5. So me and my mom wind up going to my grandmother in Oakland, and from that point on, my mom remarried, and I was raised in LA for the majority of my life. And then God, kind of moved me into Las Vegas. I was in Las Vegas probably about 10 or 11 years of my life, but the majority of my life was in the California, LA County.
Okay, just going back, you said that you had to deal with your mother remarrying
Yeah.
and stuff, and you must have been still young.
Yes.
How did that? How were you coping with that?
Um, you know, at that particular time, I was very young,
Hmm.
and I had no choice but to actually.
Was it uncomfortable for you?
Yeah, it was because I still remembered bits and pieces of my real dad, and I never wanted to actually really deal with it. I was too young to actually deal with losing one of my parents, and especially the father figure role of my life. And so I did cope with it, and thank God, because God did bring another good man to my mom and raised me, and I think he did the best job he possibly could, and I thank God for that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was difficult.
But eventually you started to. Did you ever start to take him as a father figure, or
Yes, yes, I did.
so
Yes.
you got eventually?
Yeah.
I'm sure you got comfortable.
Yeah, I
with
mean,
it.
I always knew that my real dad passed away,
Mm,
but I actually
You just-
started to adapt
yeah.
to him being my father figure, because I was probably about 5 or 6 when my mom got remarried, and so ever since I was 5 or 6 up until I was, Jesus, probably 37, 36 or 37 years old,
So
this
close,
man
yeah.
raised me, and he actually passed away a couple of years ago. So
Wow,
Yeah.
That's horrible.
yeah,
How did you deal with that?
how did I deal with that? It was hard, and it was hard on my sister, because I have a sister, and it was hard on my mom. But thank God, Jesus brought us through, and he really became a really strong pillar. And
Jehovah Shalom.
yes, Jehovah Shalom, put peace, and I thank God for it. And praise God that we were able to move forward, and uh, I'm really proud to actually see everything we went through, and to actually see how Jesus really is our rock, because my mom, my sister, and myself and the rest of my family was able to continue and move on.
Well, that's awesome to hear.
Yes.
Okay, now, you were in Vegas, you said?
Yes.
So, elaborate a little bit on that. Like, what did you do in Vegas?
At that particular time, my mom and my stepdad moved to Las Vegas. I don't remember what year it actually was, but I actually was pastoring a church in Downey, California, and I pastored that church probably for about 3 years, and it really wasn't going where God wanted to actually go, and God just started to shut some doors, and He moved me from that church, and I wound it up in Vegas.
Was that hard to deal with since you had to close down your church?
Um,
So I'm sure after 3 years.
yeah, it was difficult, but there was a couple of things that God showed me, and one of the things that God told me is, He said, "Son, you have two choices." And I said, "Lord, what are they?" He said, you can choose to stay here and continue to go on, or come out from among them, and I will take you to a place of promise. Or He said, you can stay here, but He told me you would be like a Moses generation, that you'll see the promise from afar off, but you'll never eat the fruit thereof. Or come out from among them
And be the Joshua.
and be the Joshua generation, and actually go into the promise, and I will show you a land. But of course, I did not want to, just shut these doors, and because we still had some congregation, and being a shepherd, I actually told God, I said, "Lord, how is that going to look? If I can't just leave these people. So how do you want me to actually do this? How do you want me to juggle it?" And the Lord told me that if I would say yes to come out from among them, that He would actually do it. And He actually did it. When I said yes, every week, every Sunday, and every Wednesday when I went to go preach, I actually saw people becoming less and less and less and less and less, until I went to the church one Sunday and there was absolutely no one there. So that's how God shut that door.
And when He planted you in Vegas, how did that work out for you?
Well, it was a rough road, and it was really hard readjusting and adapting into a new city, wondering what God is going to actually do. And of all the cities, Las Vegas, Nevada. So it was kind of rough. But again, Jehovah pulled me through.
And you were involved in a church in
Yes, I was involved with a very powerful man of God, who's it's the House of Prayer for All Nations, with Pastor Mark C. Hawthorne.
I know him very well.
Yes, and I was on staff there for a couple of years, and it was a very anointed church. I've learned a lot from Pastor Hawthorne, and and I thank God that he was one of the men that God put in my midst to actually help me come to a place where I'm at now.
you sing that to the Lord? Lord.